If you've ever been down a path before in your life where you question where God is and why He's allowing it, you might ask the question, why God? Why am I here?
This is the Truth Pop Podcast with Jake and Cathy, a Catholic take on faith and culture. Be sure to subscribe.
This is the Truth Pop Podcast, helping you to live out your faith in modern day society. I am Jake.
And I'm Cathy. We want to talk about how you can enter into the suffering of Jesus with this Good Friday.
Cathy, I think sometimes when we go through the holiest week of the year, however your Lent has turned out, I don't know, maybe it's been a really fruitful Lent where you feel like you've grown closer to God. And then you get to Holy Week and then you're like, okay, it's the final sprint. And then you're already thinking about Easter and just being able to go back to whatever it is that you gave up. In some ways, it can be kind of a blink of an eye and then Easter's here. But really using these last few days before Easter, this, as they call it, the Holy Triduum, and that's Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday. How can we really reflect on these days and enter into them and really ask Jesus to show us the suffering He experienced? I think a lot of times we can enter into that through our own suffering.
This past Sunday, we celebrated Palm Sunday, where we get palms at Mass, and we're asked to hold up the palm branches. Now, this represents the time that when Jesus came into Jerusalem and a crowd welcomed Him, waving palm branches. It says in Matthew chapter 21, verse 8, a very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road. Others cut branches from the trees and spread them out on the road. The crowds that went ahead of Him, that followed, were shouting, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. Now, it's actually interesting to note that palm branches were a sign of rebellion. And so when the people were raising their palm branches, they were actually hoping that Jesus was going to be the one to overthrow the Roman Empire, which was overtaking the people at the time. And so in their minds, they were hoping that Jesus was something that they wanted Him to be. And then it's also interesting to note that that same crowd also was the same crowd that shouted, crucify Him. And it's interesting at Mass that we also wave the palm branches at the beginning, but then at the gospel reading, we participate as the crowd when they read the gospel, and we also say, crucify Him.
That was always kind of hard to be a part of that crowd.
Yeah, I know. Because I sometimes would even not say it. I'd be like,
Same.
I don't want to say crucify Him because
Same.
I don't want Him crucified. But if you think about it, it kind of does represent our picture of God sometimes, our picture of Jesus, where we're hoping He's going to be something for us. We have this hope that He's going to bring us something that we really want. And when He doesn't, or if He doesn't, we get upset and we get disappointed.
In some ways, it's possible that I almost wonder, was that the case with Judas too? Because Judas was upset with Jesus for using this fine, expensive oil, or for allowing the fine, expensive oil to be used on him, when it's poured on His feet. And then Judas says, why didn't you save this for the poor? And then we start to see that, Judas is starting to get disenchanted with what Jesus's real mission is. And we see Judas's heart being so focused on earthly means and on money, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, wait, this isn't the guy that was going to overthrow the Roman government. And then as much as we blame these people for turning on Jesus, at the same time, like you said, babe, we ourselves do that.
Yes.
And we know Jesus is God. We know He's our King.
Yeah. The one thing that it's so clear is that Jesus does not focus on earthly glory. The people try to glorify Him in an earthly way, but the only crown that Jesus would ever accept is the crown of thorns. He is showing through His passion that His true home, it's not here on this earth, it's heaven. And He wants to reveal the beauty and importance of heavenly glory. And I think the same can be said for us. You know, our true home truly is in heaven. And this earth, we have to live here right now, but that's not really our true goal.
Yeah, and I think it gives us perspective then when we're going through real suffering, when we feel like we're carrying the cross of our own lives and we ask Jesus, why are you allowing this? Like, why is my life turning out this way?
Yeah.
You know, we ask that question, and whatever it is for you, maybe it's been a difficult Lent for you. Maybe you didn't grow closer to God and you're asking God, like, I've really tried to go closer to you. Why do you feel so distant? And it's maybe in that humility of just recognizing that sometimes Jesus allows things for our own lives that we don't want.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away the fact that he is still good. And we see the way he carried his own cross and the way that he went through his own passion, that we can simply follow him along that path to Calvary and imitate his example so that we can one day be glorified, not on earth, but in heaven with Jesus's heavenly glory. I think sometimes it's so easy to just get caught up with what the world says about happiness and finding yourself here in this world, and just taking a step back, realizing that no, this world is sometimes going to be paved with tears, but that Jesus is there along the way.
I really imagine when Jesus went through his suffering, when he was scourged and mocked, and when he carried that heavy cross and was crucified, his senses were fully alive. He fully felt everything. And I can't even imagine that kind of pain. It says in Mark chapter 15, verse 23, and they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. Myrrh actually was a type of drug that they would use for people during difficult times, especially when people were close to death, just to kind of lessen the pain. But Jesus refused to take that. He wanted to feel everything to the full effect because he still had so much work to do on the cross. He still had to forgive those who were persecuting him. He had to give redemption to the repentant sinner who was right next to him, that good criminal on the cross. He had to give us his own mother as our mother. He also had to consummate that last cup, you know, as they say that he did drink that last cup on the cross when he said, I thirst. And he was finishing that eternal covenant that God had promised. From the Old Testament, God had promised that he was going to give an everlasting covenant. And he promised that he would give a universal church to all the people. And Jesus completed that on the cross.
I think the lesson there is that the way that Jesus truly embraced the pain and carried out his mission to the very end, it's motivation for us to recognize that in our mission and in our calling of life, and even in our suffering, those times that I think we really want to just numb the pain of our lives. And you know, maybe that's why we turn to certain things, whatever that vice is, to numb that pain, to just make us feel a little better for a temporary amount of time.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is that we do turn to, we can turn to Jesus on the cross and picture him looking at us and think about all of the pain, all of the passion he went through for you. And maybe that's the way that pain you're experiencing right now can be just a little bit lessened, a little bit more healed. That Jesus' blood on the cross can pour over your life and heal you of that shame, heal you of those wounds, that you don't have to turn to anything else, but instead you can fully embrace your cross and know that Jesus holds you in the palm of his hand, in his heart, and that he wants you to receive heaven. And no matter how much longer it takes for you on this earth to carry out your mission, just trusting that this suffering you're going through right now does matter, that it has purpose, and that it can lead to your everlasting glory in heaven.
And it's something, you know, we don't really think about when we're going through suffering. It's really hard, and that's all we can think about. And one thing that I've been contemplating a lot lately is just the reality of surrender and what that means to just truly give Jesus access to what you're going through. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty good at working out problems, getting through difficulties.
Yeah.
I'm pretty self-sufficient, but I started a new job a few months ago and it's been pretty challenging. And for the first time, I feel like I really can't do this on my own. And I've been just kneeling before the crucifix and just truly surrendering each day to Jesus, just saying, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. You take care of this. And the amount of grace I've had throughout these past few weeks have been pretty unbelievable, because I'm not really sure how I get through my days, but somehow I am. And I just feel like I've been doing a really good job despite how difficult it's been. And I recognize that grace of surrender is so powerful. So I just want to encourage you today, whatever you're going through, whatever difficulty you have, whatever cross you're carrying, surrender that to Jesus, crucified on the cross, dying, breathing his last breath for you. And picture him telling you that he loves you and that he wants to help you and give you that grace that you need.
Have a quick sec? Be sure to subscribe to the Truth Pop Podcast.